People say love arrives when you least expect it. For Katerina Volnova, it arrived the day she got lost in a crowded market thousands of miles from home, in the hands of a stranger who didn't even speak perfect English. Katerina had spent most of her life in St. Petersburg, surrounded by cold weather and even colder relationships. On the outside, she was the woman everyone wanted to be. Successful, independent, living in a stylish apartment overlooking the city. But inside, she carried a quiet emptiness. Heartbreak after heartbreak turned her belief in love into dust. She had once trusted people with her whole heart, only to be used for her beauty or her position. Eventually, she whispered to herself, "Love is nothing but a story people create to feel less alone." But after years of smiling through the pain, she finally broke. She needed warmth, not from heaters or blankets, but from somewhere far away from everything she knew. So she joined a cultural travel program. She picked the Philippines, not because she knew much about it, but because she wanted to be somewhere she wouldn't feel frozen inside. The moment she stepped out of the airport in Davao City, something changed. The air was warm. Strangers smiled at her for no reason. Kids ran past her laughing. For the first time in a long time, Katerina felt like her heart took a deep breath. During one of the tours, her group stopped at a vibrant public market, overflowing with voices, colors, fruits, and the smell of grilled food. While looking for local fabrics, she got separated from her group. Her map wasn't helping. Her phone had no signal. People rushed around her, barely noticing her confusion. Just when panic began to rise, someone tapped her shoulder gently. "Miss, you look lost. Can I help you?" His name was Joel Ramirez. He wasn't rich, he wasn't dressed fancy, just a simple Filipino man helping his mother run a fruit stall. His shirt was a little worn, his hands slightly rough from work, but his smile was warm enough to calm her instantly. He guided her through the maze of the market, talking to her with a mix of English and local Bisaya. He was funny without trying, humble without pretending, and sincere without effort. Before she left, he handed her a ripe pineapple slice and said, "Try this. It's sweet, but your smile is sweeter." It was the kind of line that would normally make her roll her eyes, but somehow he made it feel real. That night in her hotel, she replayed his words. Why did a stranger feel more genuine than anyone she had known? The next day, she returned to the market. She told herself it was for the food, but deep down, she knew. Joel saw her first and waved happily, like someone who had been waiting. He introduced her to local snacks, cracked jokes, and told stories about growing up with 5 siblings after losing their father. For the first time in years, Katerina wasn't guarded. She wasn't pretending. She wasn't performing. She was just living. Days turned into weeks. Katerina extended her stay, secretly because of him. They visited beaches, shared meals at small food stalls, and talked about dreams under the palm trees. She was used to men who showed off. But Joel didn't try to impress, he just cared. One evening, while they sat on a sandy shore watching the sky melt into orange and gold, Joel said quietly, "Maybe I'm not the kind of man people expect you to love, but if loving means protecting someone, listening to them, standing by them, then I can love you every day, even when you don't love yourself." The words hit her like a wave. Tears escaped her eyes before she could stop them. It wasn't a movie moment. It wasn't dramatic. It was simply true. When her trip came to an end, Katerina didn't want to leave. At the airport, they held hands tightly, refusing to say goodbye too quickly. Joel whispered, "Someday, maybe you'll come back." She answered softly, "Or maybe someday, you'll come to me." Back in Russia, everything looked the same but felt hollow. She missed the market. She missed the warmth. She missed him. They began video calling, and with terrible signals, audio delays, and blurry screens, but always with the same love. Joel woke up before sunrise just to talk to her. She stayed up late every night just to see his tired smile. Her friends laughed at the idea of her falling for a fruit seller. She didn't care. For the first time in her life, she was understood. Months later, on a freezing Russian night, Joel called her with shaking hands. "Katerina, I got my passport." He had been saving every coin, working double shifts, and collecting every bit of hope he had, just to see her again. When he finally landed in Russia, she ran across the airport and threw her arms around him. He shivered from the cold, but she warmed him with her embrace. For 2 months, they lived the kind of life she once believed was impossible. He learned Russian phrases. He slipped on ice and made everyone laugh. Her parents examined him carefully at first, but once they saw his respect, his kindness, and his sincerity, they opened their hearts to him. They cooked traditional dishes together, danced to his favorite Visayan love songs, and explored snowy streets hand in hand. One night, under gently falling snow, Joel asked, "Do you still think love is a lie?" She looked into his eyes and said, "No, because you showed me love that doesn't need to pretend." Before he left Russia, she gave him a small silver ring. "This is not a promise," she said. "This is a memory of the love you brought into my life." He held her close and whispered, "I'll return for you. That is my promise." A year later, she did something nobody expected. She left her job, packed her belongings, and moved to the Philippines. She built a small online business and settled with Joel in a simple wooden house by the sea. They didn't have wealth, but they had peace. They didn't have luxury, but they had each other. Every morning she woke up to the sound of waves and the scent of fresh fruit he brought from the market. She often wondered how she ever lived without this calmness. One rainy evening, as they sat outside listening to the raindrops hit their roof, Joel said, "Thank you for choosing me, even when I had nothing." She held his hand and replied, "No, thank you for giving me everything that matters." They traveled across the Philippines, new islands, new foods, new people. Everywhere they went, their story touched hearts. Locals called them the Russian and the Davao boy, proof that love knows no borders. One sunset, on the same beach where everything first changed, Joel took out a small wooden box. Inside, it was the same ring she had given him years before. "You gave me this to remind me of your heart," he said. "Now I return it as a promise of mine. Katerina, will you marry me?" She broke into tears, nodding as she embraced him. Their wedding was simple. Barefoot on the beach, surrounded by family and locals who witnessed their love grow from a single moment in a crowded market. Katerina often reflects on how strange life is. She once traveled to escape her loneliness, and instead found the one person who filled her heart. She used to say love didn't exist, until a Filipino man from a fruit stall showed her that real love isn't loud or perfect. It's gentle, it's patient, it's honest, and it stays.